Hey guys, it's Kim again, and I am back for part two. We are back for part two of Proverbs chapter 22, verse 6. And for those that don't know, for just a refresher, it's the scripture that states that we should train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I'm using the ESV version to read that. So the first time 2 weeks ago, whenever I brought up this topic, I had begun to break down what it means to train. And in the Hebrew, the word is kanak, and it means to cause a process or action to begin, or to introduce someone to a particular activity or skill. And so, first of all, I want to preface this by stating that as a parent, I am a parent. I have a son, he is 10 years old, and I have another one on the way. As a parent, I'm not sitting here and I'm not making this as something that I've mastered. I'm not stating this as something that I just know it and God is just done with me with my parenting. As parents, whether it's your first or your 12th time, we all know that there is no manual. We all know that parenting can be very difficult at times, but there is an art to be able to do this in a way that's pleasing to God, and there's an importance in doing this in a manner that is pleasing to God. And these are just some things that God has been enlightening in my life recently, and He's been opening up my eyes concerning my parenting of my son. And I just wanted to be able to bless and encourage other people. Like I said last week, or 2 weeks ago, sorry, when I first brought this up, I went through the Hebrew and I talked about how the fact that that word train means in the Hebrew to cause a process to happen. And so this week, one of the things that I want to very specifically talk about is now that we are aware that there is a process that's caused whenever we're parenting, we need to know what the process is and why it's important, right? So the process that we're causing, the scripture that I want to bring up is Ephesians chapter 6, and you can read from about verse 12 down to verse 20. And I'm not going to read all of it, but there is one particular part of the scripture that I am going to read because I believe it's very important. And that's verse 12, where it states, "We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers, over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places." And then after that, it goes on to talk about putting on the full armor of God. So what is this process? It is something that God has been heavily putting on my heart and opening up my eyes to the fact that it's great if our children go through the different school and, elementary school, middle school, high school. It's great if they go through those things. It's great if they go on to college and they have all these different careers and things, and they have all these different degrees under their belt, and that's all fine. And I'm never going to say that God doesn't use us in those particular areas, because I know that a passion for me is family and child services. And so right now I work in the adoption, or the foster care field. And I know that over time I've been a TSS, a case manager, different things like that. So not to say at all that Christians can't operate and can't be successful in different worldly careers. But it's very important that we know that we need this process, that we need to begin in our children as they're young, so that they don't allow it to depart from them when they're older. This thing that we're introducing this particular way is the fact that we need to embrace them with knowing how to put on the full armor of God. Starting in verse 13, "Therefore take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. Stand therefore, having fastened on the belt of truth, and having put on the breastplate of righteousness." I could go on with that particular scripture about the different steps that are needed to be made in order for our children to learn how to put on the full armor of God, so that they are able to protect themselves from those spiritual wickednesses and high places and things like that. But this is a process. We need to understand that even as young children, we need to teach our young children how to pray. We need to teach our young children how to war in the spirit, because there's a very popular song by one of my favorite rappers. His name is Andy Mineo, and it's young. It's one of his early CDs. It doesn't matter if I'm young. Like, we need to be able to teach our children that it doesn't matter if you're young. You need to learn how to fight and to war for yourself, because then what happens is They get older, they don't know how to pray, they can't pray, they're not willing to pray, and these are things that stops them from being able to be successful spiritually and to be able to ward off these spiritual wickedness in high places. You know, we spend so much time as parents fighting the fleshly side of things with our children and teaching them the different fleshly things, and we honestly, a lot of times we lack that component of the spiritual warfare that is so important. So my little bit today, because I'm not going to overwhelm you all with this vlog, is just that one, we need to know that the parenting is a process, is a very important process. Two, what is the process? Teaching our children how to spiritually fight for themselves, how to stand their ground, how to put on the full armor of God. Why? Because this is not a game. A friend of mine earlier today, he said to me on Facebook, we are not on a playground, we are on a battlefield. And we need to be able to teach our children that this is, spiritually, this is a battlefield. We are trying to fight a lot of different things that's happening in our schools, that's happening in our homes. We're trying to fight these things on a fleshly battle, and this is not a fleshly battle. This is not a playground. This is a battlefield. This is spiritual warfare, and there is really a devil out there that wants to kill us and destroy us in any way he can. So that's my encouragement for today. Not only is this a process that needs to begin, not only is it a particular way that our children need to learn, but this is something that is so important so that we can be able to equip our children so that whenever they're older, when they're adults, they may have bumps on the road, but it's something that will never depart from them. It's something that will be set in stone for their hearts, for their minds, and spiritually they'll be able to fight this fight that we're in, because again, we're spiritual beings, we're children of God, and we have to know how to fight, and we have to teach our children that as well. So I hope you are encouraged. If you need prayer, please send that my way so that I can be in prayer for you and your family. But again, this is not me being an expert. This is just me very simply trying to share some encouragement concerning the things that I'm learning as well. Be blessed.